32 days later. Saturday morning, January the 7th. Faced with another day of solitude and boredom, I clung to the sheets on my bed as I tossed and turned. Despite being a Sunday, I had woken up early once again, unable to enjoy the sleep in which everyday people would look forward to. But it wasn't just today. For the last few weeks, I had woken up before the sun, and on every single one of those days, I regretted it. The day after breaking into Adder, I had slept all day. Late nights, early mornings, all-day training, and more grief that I cared to endure bogged me down, necessitating a day of pure rest. I actually find it kind of unfortunate that they're not going into more detail about how they escaped, but it sort of feels like, you know, it's a Hail Mary attempt, getting Suo or carrying Suo along with them, and it kind of needs a good ending. But I would have loved to hear you know, some of the details as to how they possibly escaped. But the thing was, I think back then I found it more impossible than I do now. Because the thing was that they mentioned, right, is that they had a 15-minute window, but after 10 minutes they were supposed to meet up. So they still, and Suo came in, you know, during the fight with Leon, to tell Misa like, oh, we're over that 10 minutes. So they still have a couple of minutes at that point. And I would definitely say that they are, you know, with everything transpiring with Misa getting knocked unconscious, almost dying by Kane, Suo saving Misa's life, then Kane coming back, stabbing Suo in the chest, Sai killing Kane, you know, that whole situation, and then carrying Suo out of there, that definitely takes more than 5 minutes, so for sure. So they're definitely above the 15-minute limit, but they still managed to fight their way out of it somehow. And I think, like, you know, I think they're closer to, they're not that long over the time limit than as I originally thought when I first played through the Misa ending at the beginning. So it is more possible, but I would have just loved at least a little bit of the details. Then, you know, we're gonna get out of here no matter what. Phew! Fast forward 32 days. It's a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, it has to have a good ending, you know. Late nights, early mornings, all-day training, and more grief that I care about. Oh fuck, we already did this. For 16 hours straight I slept, completely undisturbed in the bedroom of my temporary home. However, it was not a good sleep. Alone for the first time in this house, I did not sleep soundly, despite my overwhelming fatigue. And even after I had awoken, I didn't feel better. Rested, perhaps, but not happy or relieved. Despite our mission being a success, I suffered utter defeats at the hands of Kane, and my carelessness almost cost Suo and I our lives. Furthermore, even though we all survived, Suo was now in the hospital, yet to wake up. Successful or not, I couldn't feel good about this outcome. Surprisingly, the worst part of my current situation wasn't the aftermath of breaking into Adder. It was not the knowledge that we would be hunted, living every day in fear of getting caught, afraid to live our lives out in the open. Rather, what was causing me to suffer right now was my return to solitude and inactivity. Left alone, trapped with my own thoughts, I was prohibited from seeing my father until he was prepared to vacate the city. Similarly, as much as I wanted to visit Suo in the hospital, there was no telling if and when he would wake up, and I was not the type to idly sit by someone's side while praying for the best. Finally, with the situation surrounding Adder still yet to cool down, I could not risk going outside without good reason and being seen in public, and I certainly couldn't return to work. With that being the case, I had little choice but to wait patiently and pass the time in an empty house. I used to feel overjoyed when I came here, not just because I could see Suo, but also due to the mystery which normal teenagers offered. Going through Sarah's clothes, flipping through her school books, raiding the fridge. This house, offered an alternative to the empty life I was forced to lead. But now, with Sarah dead and Suo hospitalized, this place is no better than my hotel room. A few hours passed by, and my growling stomach inevitably called me to action. I entered the kitchen, intent on making something filling, and headed straight to the fridge. I didn't possess the enthusiasm to cook up anything complicated, nor was there anybody present who would appreciate the effort, so my plan was to just make whatever was easy, yet filling. As soon as I opened the fridge, however, I realized that doing so would not be so simple. No groceries. Looks like it's about time I went shopping. I can probably go another day or two on what's left, but not much longer than that. When I do go shopping, I'll stick with instant foods wherever possible, stuff that's easy to make and with a long shelf life. Because whether I like it or not, as I reached out my hand to grab some leftovers from the fridge, an unfamiliar sound filled the room. I turned my head from side to side, trying to locate the source of the sound. Eventually, my eyes rested on the phone in the corner of the room, which had begun to ring for the first time since I began staying at Suo's house. A landline phone? In this day and age? I hesitantly picked up the phone, wary that I could not hope to hold an actual conversation. It'll probably be a telemarketer, but just in case. Running faster than I ever had during training, I sped through the busy city streets of Richmond. In every direction, there were passers-by watching me, drawn to the peculiar sight before them, and no doubt curious about what was going on. But for once, I paid them no mind. I simply continued to run, focused solely on my destination. Eventually, I caught up to the bus I had narrowly missed, at which point I was able to rest once more. Clad in the white dress I had been saving for a formal occasion, I once again ignored the gazes of onlookers as I tried to calm my breathing and sat towards the front of the bus. Oh god, I can totally imagine how other people must think of her when they see like a girl running in a white dress just running around crazily, you know? They'd be like, either this girl just got dumped or something, or she was about to get married and she just eloped or something. She just ran away and is like, nope. She saw the guy with his face like, oh shit, I have to spend my entire life with this guy? Nope, I'm out of here. Usually, I'd sit further back, tucked away somewhere discreet and dressed inconspicuously. Today, however, I am not on the job, and there is no need for discretion. There is someone waiting for me. And even if this dress is soaked with sweat by the time I arrive, I plan to get there as quickly as possible. I had taken my time at first. I changed into this dress, had something quick to eat, and walked to the nearest bus stop. After a few minutes of waiting for a bus that I had already missed, however, I was no longer able to contain myself. Suo was waiting for me, and I wanted to be his first visitor, no matter what. While I knew that a few minutes, or even a few hours would likely make no difference, that didn't change how I felt. I had heeded my father's warning and kept a low profile. I had trapped myself in Suo's home, then denied myself the presence of another human being for a full month. But now, he was awake, and I couldn't stay away any longer. The phone call I received, which I struggled through with short grunts, was a notice that Suo had finally awoken. That has gotta be really weird as well, you know? Cause how are you even able to hold a phone conversation, or a conversation over the phone, you know, without actually being able to talk? I'm actually surprised she's able to get through that. Although it was probably the people just telling her like, is this blah blah blah, and she's like, and then, oh yeah, he has awoken. You should probably come and visit him if you want. I almost said like, alright, but yeah, she can't say that. Because, you know, if you're face to face with a person and you can't talk, at least you're able to do other stuff to try and make that person understand. But a phone call, it's solely reliant on, you know, using your voice to talk, or at least making sounds. So, yeah, that's even harder for Misa, but she managed to get through it. Contrary to expectations that he would be in a coma for years, if not for life, he awoke unexpectedly, surprising hospital staff at every turn. I have no idea how comas work exactly, right? But he got stabbed in the chest. Isn't comas usually something to do with head injuries? I don't know. Don't quote me on that, definitely. I don't know anything about comas, other than the fact that you're kind of in a vegetable state. But yeah, I don't know exactly. You could possibly get into a coma from being stabbed in the chest. I do not know. But I think the more likely way of getting into a coma is definitely more like some sort of head injury or something. Hearing that, I was immediately pulled out of my slump. I was filled with energy I hadn't possessed since he was first hospitalized, and I quickly capitalized on it. His revival triggered my own, just as my near-death experience led to his. Our fates truly were linked. Talking my way through hospital reception took longer than I had anticipated. Should have just written on paper, Suo. Suo, what's the last name? I forgot already, damn it. Without Suo, or my father to interpret for me, or even my phone to convey my message through text, I was at a loss for how to communicate. Luckily, after a few minutes of playing charades, one of the nurses finally came to the grand realization that I couldn't speak, and offered me a pen and notepad. Really? After a few minutes? Wow, that nurse is one of the smarter ones. From there, things progressed without issue. I was led to Suo's room and told to wait outside while the nurse confirmed that he was ready for visitors. So I waited, peeking into his room from outside, biding my time in silent contemplation as I tried to calm my suddenly rapid heartbeat. Mr. Suo, I understand that you're keen to get up and move around, but please take it easy. Standing up and stretching so soon is a bit... I'm fine. The head doctor said I should be okay, as long as I don't leave the hospital. Completely betraying its state from only a second ago, my heart stopped the moment I heard Suo's voice. Bedridden, comatose, near death. He was a patient here. He should have been weak from his struggle between life and death, worn out from his lengthy stay. Instead, the voice I heard was one filled with the same strength as ever. Suo was his usual self. He was alive and well, ready to resume where he left off, and not at all hindered by what he went through. He's alive. Suo really is alive. Finally able to confirm Suo's well-being, the reality of what I was told set in. I knew that he was alive and well. I had been told as much by the nurses here, who were amazed by his recovery. But it wasn't until the moment when I heard his voice that relief truly overwhelmed me. I see. In that case, do you think you're ready to accept visitors? Before I knew it, tears had begun to stream down my face. I was smiling, yet I couldn't stop crying, nor did I feel the need to. I didn't need to hide how I felt. Not anymore. If someone wants to see me, then let them ride in. Okay then, I'll go get her now. I think we've kept your girlfriend waiting long enough. Oh, girlfriend. Prompted by the nurse, I finally entered the hospital room. I walked slowly and calmly, trying my utmost to remain composed. Still in tears, I held my hands in front of my body, unable to prevent them from shaking. Misa? I stared directly at Suo as he uttered my name. He was sitting up, dressed in a hospital gown, and looked more pale than I remembered. Even so, it was him. A month in the hospital hadn't changed that. Suo smiled back at me, genuinely happy to see me. Ah, I made you cry again. Sorry to worry you, Misa. I rejected Suo's misplaced concern and continued to smile. My hands still shaking, it was taking every ounce of restraint I had to not leap onto his bed and bury my face in his chest. Whatever guilt he felt, I would much rather indulge in a tear-filled reunion than dwell on our mutual anxiety. Misa, it may be a few more days before I'm allowed to leave this place, but once I do, let's go home. Well, that was awesome to experience from Misa's perspective, for sure. I mean, we got actually quite a lot to know about our history as well, even though it was kind of, you know, put into that one specific scene about, oh, the mother died, or the sister actually was the one that caused her larynx to be damaged to the point where she was unable to speak for 10 years at least. So yeah, but at least we got to know that. So that's, you know, some of the mystery unsolved. So that's always a good thing. But this now marks the end of the Misa Extra, I guess to call it. That's kind of what it was dubbed. So the Misa Extra. Now, even though this is the end of this is not entirely the end of this series, but it is going to be on sort of a hiatus or a pause for now, because there are 2 more updates from what I have read. The developer of this is planning 2 more updates, but they aren't coming until at least late 2016 or maybe even early 2017. So yeah, kind of the same as before. It's just going to take a little bit of a break until the new updates are released, and then I'll just be continuing the rest of Sickness again. But there are 2 updates, one of which I believe is actually a different route, and actually different characters will be introduced as well as I think one of them was actually some sort of route where, wait, 2 weeks later? 2 weeks later? But anyway, let me first finish this thought. An actual a route which sort of goes into Suo and Sarah's life before this event of Sickness started, so when their parents were actually still alive. I think that was the case, at least. I remember reading something like that. So yeah, that's something to look forward, definitely for sure, but I guess I spoke a little bit too soon. There's still something after the credit. Saturday morning, January 21st. In the days following my first visit to the now conscious Suo, I learned something new about myself. While I was not the type to sit by someone's side and pray for the best, or to knowingly endanger myself for the sake of someone else, I was without a doubt loyal. As I thought, sitting by Suo's bedside and wishing that he would awaken was something I could not do. I could not pretend that everything was going to be okay, nor could I convince myself that he would recover faster if I was beside him. My life would not be spent by a bedside. I would not become a secondary existence, dedicated to supporting someone else. And yet, the moment he did wake up, I was right by his side. I abandoned my house arrest and made my way across town, donning a conspicuous outfit and making no effort to conceal my presence. There was one place I wanted to be, one place I needed to be, and nobody was going to get in my way. On the day of Suo's return to this house, change and excitement both overwhelmed me once more. First, while I had succeeded in controlling myself in the hospital, I felt no need to do so here. The moment we returned home, I latched onto Suo, like a child clinging onto their parents as they returned home from work, and I refused to let him go for an embarrassingly long time. Second, though he claimed to be as strong and healthy as ever, Suo had definitely been weakened by his stay in the hospital, if not his wounds. Since he stubbornly refused to accept his own state, I found myself silently ordering Suo around, preventing him from overexerting himself, and ultimately acting like a bossy housewife. Finally, as I was no longer alone, my slovenliness had been culled once more. Just like before, I found myself bathing regularly, eating healthily, and brushing my teeth twice a day, and performing other basic tasks for the sake of my own well-being. I had picked my life back up once more, spurred on by my own escape from solitude. Oh, Misa, there you are. Have you finished up in the living room? Despite my insistence that I could live alone, and that I wouldn't live on purely to support another human being, I realized that I was much happier with someone by my side. My quality of life improved dramatically after I met Suo, and the same thing happened once more when he came back to me. So, unable to accept that I needed the company of another person to be happy, or that my well-being hinged on Suo's presence, I came to a similar, yet starkly different conclusion. We were partners. I'm almost done in here too. I was going to keep more of my old clothing, but I figure it's time to let most of it go. Is there anything in here you want to keep? I'm going to throw away anything we aren't able or aren't bringing along. Returning to that simple designation, our relationship became much easier for me to accept. It wasn't that I needed Suo, or couldn't live without him, and it wasn't as though he could no longer get by without me either. We were two individuals, both perfectly capable of surviving on our own. That hadn't changed, and in my mind, it never would. Even so, as partners, we were undeniably at our best when we were together. Suo made me happy. He saved me from my own loneliness and depression, and showed me that even a person like me could strive for an ordinary life. In return, I stayed by Suo's side, whether he was reeling from his sister's death or trying to keep his fragile mental and physical state under control. We contemplated one another, making up for the other's weaknesses, and as we were strengthened by simply being together, we provided each other with support when we needed it, and when we didn't, we just enjoyed the company. Whatever others would call this kind of relationship, I saw us as partners, and that was good enough for me. Alright then. Is there anything you still need to grab from your old residence? I don't know where you were there when you were there last, but you don't want to forget anything. I thought over Suo's question for a moment. While he didn't know where I was staying before I moved in with him, obviously I was living somewhere. So before he could move into his old home, Suo's reward for conquering Adder, it was important that we grabbed anything we needed. When I think about it, I don't really have much in the way of possessions. I've never really had the money to buy anything frivolous, or a home in which to store such things. My clothes were all moved here when I began living with Suo, and I usually keep my phone with me, so there's nothing that I really... It's not a possession of mine, and I could go without it, but there is still one thing I need to take care of as soon as possible. Alright, I'll make the last few trips myself. You go do what you've gotta do. Parting ways with Suo temporarily, I left the last of the moving to him as I returned to my old hotel room. Karasu owned this building, and he had essentially given me the room, so I could afford to leave my things here if I really needed to. I was wondering, like considering that she has been living in a hotel room for before moving in with Suo, how can she kind of leave it unattended for 30-something days without its, the owner thinking, yeah, alright, this person hasn't been in for so long, let's move their possessions out and make someone else use this room. But considering that Karasu owns it, then it's not that big of a deal. But I had already moved out of this place, and I returned today for only one reason. Is it that comfortable couch that she's always sitting and laying on when she's, thinking about things? Suo's new, old home does have a computer, but if I'm going to do this, it's only right that I do it here. Upon entering the hotel room, I locked the door and headed straight to the computer. Is she like going to remove her browser history or something? What? Despite being nothing flashy, it did have the software and cables I needed for what I had planned. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the computer. I then opened the encrypted messaging application that Karasu mandated we use to communicate with team members, set the keyboard to direct keystrokes straight to my phone, and started typing. A message to Sai? Her father? Father, I apologize for not doing this in person, but with our current circumstances being what they are, I feel that this method is for the best. What I have to say will either be a shock to you, or something you've suspected for a long time, or perhaps both, given your tendency to ignore reality when it becomes convenient for you to do so. Sorry, this isn't fair. I do not mean for this to become a criticism of you, and I don't want this to make things awkward between us. My freaking screen turned on there. Please, just read on until the end. Father, I have decided to move in with Suo. Not in the house he was renting, and not in one of Karasu's hotels, and not on a temporary basis. Permanently, in his old home. Whether we stay there or not, only time will tell. We may very well be forced to flee from this city, or simply decide to downgrade. But if we are forced to move, we will move together, and attempt to settle down once more. Father, what I'm trying to say is, I quit. I will not work for Karasu any longer, nor will I be at your command. Whatever my life becomes from here on, it will be a life of my own choosing, together with someone who needs me as much as I need him. At 17 years of age, I will now start to live my own life, free from the bloodshed which plagues our family. I will work, or perhaps study, and strive for an ordinary life, just as I've always wanted. Before you misunderstand, do not think that I am running away with some boy who charmed me, or any other such cliché. While I do care for Suo, I am not so confident of my feelings as to openly claim that I love him, nor would I blindly follow him into a life I did not want. But just for now, while I try to sort my life out, I feel like I can only reach the conclusion I seek if I'm by his side. Whether that feeling lasts for a day, a month, or an entire lifetime, I am choosing to follow my heart. And while I won't ask you to understand, I will request that you do not stand in my way. Please, if this is a mistake, then let me figure that out for myself. I will be going on without you, with or without your support, and I, for one, hope that it's the former. If you've read this far, Father, you shouldn't be surprised by what I have to say next. Put simply, I want my money. Such a heartfelt message, and then at the end, I want my money. I want everything you and Karasu owe me for my ongoing work, and for infiltrating Adar. I won't be so unreasonable as to demand that you give me everything, or that you send it to me immediately. I understand the dangers of transferring vast sums of money, and quite frankly, I'd be just as happy to receive what I am owed in weekly or monthly payments. Either way, building a new life isn't cheap, and I have lived off the charity of the others for far too long. Finally, let me reiterate that I'm not trying to sever my ties to you, Father. You are the one who told me we could not meet for a while. You are the one who rarely visited me, and claimed we needn't live together. Nothing about our current situation was my doing, or my desire. The fact is, I do want us to remain in contact. I want us to one day meet again, face to face. If you feel the same way, I will await your response with glee. And if not, then send me what you owe me, and we can go our separate ways. Please, contact me when you read this message, if only to confirm that we will never meet again. Even if you choose to toss me aside like the rest of our family, you will still be my father, and I will still love you. By the time I had finished typing my message to father, I could still feel tears welling up in my eyes. Looking back, my father and I have spent more time apart than together. Busy always with work, or performing some criminal act he didn't want us to know about. He spent his entire life in secret, trying to either protect or exclude those closest to him. But no matter how much I resent my father, I do love him, and even if he won't openly show it, I'm sure he feels the same way. However, if I'm wrong about that, and I'm just another nuisance to be cast aside, then I looked at the lengthy message I had typed up. Though I considered it to be complete, I hesitated to actually send it, fearful of the response I would receive, or the thought that I wouldn't receive one at all. Even so, I summoned all of my courage and sent it anyway. I was not the type to sit around doing nothing, hoping for the best, nor would I leave the responsibility of first contact with my father. And although I said I would be fine with not meeting him again, in truth, I would likely track him down using the very skills he taught me, then demand an explanation. Because from that point on, I was doing things my way, subject to nobody's whim but my own. Wow, that was actually a really beautiful message. It's just Misa taking control of her own life, you know? And it's something that she's been yearning for so long, I feel, especially because she has lived such an ordinary life for so long, and she wanted to live differently. She wanted an ordinary life, and that's what she was always wanting. And now that she has the chance to actually get it, and also with someone else, she just grasped that chance, and the chance of her also, you know, parting ways with her previous lifestyle, the working for Karasu and that sort of stuff, and just her taking control of her own life. And it's a beautiful thing to actually see a person do, you know, because sometimes you actually, it's a hard thing to do because your parents may not necessarily agree with it, or they see your future differently, you know, but at some point parents do have to realize that it is their, they obviously, parents always care about their children, right? But at some point they have to realize that whatever your child does, it's their decision. If they make a mistake, sure, even if you know it's going to end up in failure or has a high chance of failure, it is their mistake to make. And that's the kind of what Misa said as well, and I do agree with that. You can't protect your child forever, and you just have to let them go their own path at some point if they do want to go their own path. And Misa shows right now and is telling her father right now that she does want that. So, especially considering how protective Sai has been always of Misa. So, yeah, that was just an awesome message to see. And I'm not sure if any of the future routes are going to go beyond this timeline, you know, like for example if we're actually going to see Suo and Misa living together, but or if it just ends here. But still, it's a nice cutoff point to sort of see like, yep, they're both going on, moving on with their life, and putting this kind of, you know, dark past, to sort of call it, put it behind them. So that was actually really awesome, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know what else to say. I pretty much said everything I wanted to say regarding this series at the credits, and then I didn't expect that to still come after the credits. But yeah, I'm guessing we'll just have to wait until the next update of Sickness before we continue this series. But in the meantime, I actually still play a bunch of other visual novels, so yeah, I just want to thank you guys so very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this route as well, the Misa route. That was really, really awesome actually. Even though it repeated some of the previous events, it was still it's always still great to see it from a different perspective, and especially from Misa, because I feel like you haven't gotten to know her that much as a person, right? Sure, but I feel like the part of Misa that we got to know was kind of just, it was only like the tip of the iceberg, like very superficial, only the thoughts that she was able to convey without speaking a word, so we're unable to know her thoughts. But now that we are, she feels like a more complete and understandable person as well, especially regarding her past, kind of why she fell into this line of job. Although the one thing that I still really regret not coming to know is exactly what Suo sickness is and why, and does it ever get better, etc, etc, you know, because the title of the freaking game is called Sickness, so I thought a lot more would be focused on, of the story and just general plotline would be focused on Suo sickness, and that it would ultimately be revealed at the end what exactly it was, and how he possibly could either learn to live with it, or, you know, if it was able to get rid of it. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't really get to know that much of it yet. Maybe in some of the other routes, as I mentioned, but yeah. Anyway, I think I'm just gonna end this video and this series for now here. So thank you guys so very much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more, and I hope to see you in any of the other series that I'm still currently playing. So I hope to see you there. Peace.